Hey guys, I hope you're all doing swell. I don't know if anybody still uses swell, but I am. Let's bring it. Why? So recently in my non-fandom writing, my original works, I have come across an unsettling pattern. Now I used to write fan fiction, and with fics on Tumblr and on AO3, pretty much anything goes when writing sex. Everything is tagged appropriately, the more, the merrier. However, now that I'm writing my novel and my short story, I find myself being terrified of writing sex for some reason, and whenever I send in a draft to my editor, there's always like something in the margins of me going, I'm sorry, I can write a better scene than this, I'm just really nervous because the lines are so blurred when writing sex in like mainstream stuff. So today, we are going to be having an open, explorative discussion on writing, reading, having sex in YA novels. One take! I'm gonna break this down into 5 parts because I'm scatterbrained and lists help me and it makes me feel like a vlog brother. Part 1 is age, and this is really a preface before we get into like the meat and potatoes of the discussion. I think age in this particular topic of sex makes a huge difference. If your characters are just barely above middle grade, like 13, 14, graphic sex is a hard no for me. Sometimes a kiss or a makeout is perfectly fine and normal and great, and it ends. That's it. I don't think that authors should feel pressured to like sex it up, but if your characters are like, 16, 17, 18, then, as opposed to like the 13, 14-year-olds, then they could handle a little bit more. And we have to ask ourselves, is this necessary? Are they running around in the forest fighting for their lives, and then they're just gonna find this like random peaceful place to have sex on a boulder? The pioneers used to ride these babies for miles. A good example of this, actually, of writing age, is the author Rainbow Rowell, and she writes both adult, new adult, and young adult. Part 2 is what I like to call, what are we afraid of? Now from a writer's standpoint, I'm always a little self-conscious of my friends and family reading something sexy that I wrote. And obviously, these are characters, the things that they say and do and are into isn't me, but it's always in the back of my mind like, oh, are they judging me? But in a broader sense, I'm asking, what are we afraid of tapping into? Do publishers force writers to whittle it down to, we became one, I don't know where my body ended and his began? I hate that line. I hate that line. You will never catch it in anything that I've written because I hate that line. We ask teens to think critically, and in class we have them analyze the works of like Orwell and Fitzgerald and Hawthorne, and this is complex stuff. We know this. So why can we spend half a Socratic seminar on the moral significance of Holden Caulfield in The Catcher in the Rye, buying a prostitute, but Looking for Alaska by John Green is banned because Pudge gets the least sensual 2-second blowjob in history? Are we saying that oral sex is too far? Tell me your thoughts, because I actually have a quote from John Green himself about that specific scene. He says, the argument here is that physical intimacy can never stand in for emotional closeness, and when teenagers attempt to conflate these ideas, it inevitably fails. And I think that's an important lesson that people like to skim over. Is it an issue with the explicitity of the prose, or are we looking for like clandestine metaphors of sex? Because I've got the book for you, and that is The Summer of Chasing Mermaids by Sarah Auckler. The way that this woman writes is just poetry. And within this, we do get not only a sex scene, but a masturbation scene, and it's done in like these beautiful extended metaphors. And it ties emotion to sex and focuses more on the emotional tie that she has to this person and the thoughts going through her head more than like the mechanics of sex. I'm not saying that every YA novel needs sex, because it doesn't. And I'm not saying that it's like your duty as an author to write sex, because it's not. But to me, sometimes like when we don't pull back like that oh so elusive curtain, I think it says that sex is like this dirty, taboo, forbidden thing. Because here's the thing, we have so much access to over-the-top gratuitous sex. It's not like it's back in the day where we have to buy a Playboy to see a naked girl. So why can't we make YA a safe, explorative middle ground? This brings me to part 3, which is realism and fun. Yes, yes, fun. Oh yes, Bridget, it was candles and rose petals and chocolate and orgasms for everyone, and it was raining outside, of course, and outside his bedroom window there was a clown just softly singing, "Wake me up inside." It was the best night of my life. No, you rocked her world for 12 seconds and that's okay. I'm not saying that your character's first time, whether it's, their first time in general or just their first time with that person, can't be awesome. I hope it's a great experience. I'm just saying, I also love reading the blush-worthy bits, whether that's one character like elbowing the other in the esophagus, or character A absolutely losing their mind over seeing character B's breasts. Looking back, a good example of keeping it fun and playful is the Angus Thongs and Full Throttle Snogging series. I don't know if you guys remember those, but I will forever be elated that Nickelodeon adapted this. Beautiful. Another good example is Forever by Judy Blume. Do you guys remember? I remember passing around this novel with my friends in middle school, and it was that scene where she sees the guy's penis for the first time, and it's like her, first penis ever. And the thoughts that ran through her head had us screaming. And it's the exact same thoughts that we had too. She thought that it would be like this cold and slimy thing, like it's an Alaskan bullworm. Think about that. This just goes to show, with, young girls screaming about this, it goes to show that these scenes matter. They are not ones that are going to be glossed over. This is also a good time to bring up communication and speaking up. It's always nice to see characters be like, "Hey, I'm not really feeling this position. Can we try something else?" Or a character being like, "Hey, I'm not really into this anymore. Can we stop?" Or one character seeing that their partner isn't into it and then suggesting that they stop. This goes for boys speaking up too. Just because they're a guy doesn't mean that they have to instigate sex, and they can damn sure say stop too. And it's also good to see that guys don't always want sex all the time, no matter what. Which brings me to my next topic, which is rape. Rape is not sex. It is violence. But at the same time, it doesn't feel right to have this discussion and not put that in there. What I would like to see more of is the recovery process, if it is in there, and I do Google it a lot, because there's some authors write it really graphically, and I can't personally take it. So I would like to see more of the recovery process as well, years after or months after, and maybe that survivor going into a relationship and talking to their person about boundaries and what happened. Or what happens when this survivor is already in a relationship and this happens. How do they get through it together? What does that look like? And that opens up a whole other can of worms of being sex repulsed and not wanting to be in a relationship. And if they have a partner, for them to be like, "Hey, your mental health, your comfort level, and your well-being is way more important to me than getting off." And that should be okay. And finally, we have LGBT sex. And it's basically non-existent in YA for some reason. If you would like to rec me some novels, I would love that. But why don't LGBT characters get the god-awful "and then we became one" line? Is it on purpose? I think so. And I honestly think that we're doing a disservice. I think that oftentimes whenever we see gay intimacy, whether it's in literature or in movies and television, it's quite pornographic. It's really sexualized. There's no way that you could have a romantic attraction to someone of the same sex and want to share it in that way. Representation is so important, even when it comes down to writing sex in a young adult novel, and that especially goes for LGBT themes. It can still be clunky and explorative, but also still a good experience. The only difference is that they're not straight. And this is an LGBT sex scene. It's going to be read meticulously. So maybe think about that kid that is so terrified of feeling these things, who's so terrified of thinking these thoughts, how special and beautiful it would be to see themselves represented and treated normally on a page. I think that's all that I have for you today. I don't know if it came out as like, I don't want to say profound, but like as analytical as I maybe wanted it to be. If there's something else, I'll put it either on the screen or in the description. Tell me your thoughts. Are you a writer? Are you younger? Does this change your perspective? Do you have kids? Does that change your perspective? Are you younger? I am writing for YA, so especially younger viewers, your opinion does matter to me, and it always bums me out when people say that it doesn't matter, because like if you don't care about the younger viewers' opinion, why are you creating content targeted towards them? But anyway, tell me your thoughts in the comments. I would love to get a good conversation going. Hopefully I didn't ramble on and on and on. Yeah, tell me anything you want to know, and requests are always welcome. Thank you, and I will see all of you lovely people in my next video. Bye!